he would also contract ritual impurity. And so, really anyone reading the story can actually, throw in that caveat and say, well, in any case, at least they had some reason, maybe they didn't want to contract ritual impurity. This is the beauty of the passage, in that Jesus then introduces a Samaritan. And this Samaritan is the one who goes and, binds the wounds of this man, pours oil on it, and puts him on his own animal and brings him to an inn and pays the bill and so on and so forth. And the issue is that one would say, well, he's a Samaritan, so, he didn't have anything to worry about the ritual impurity. That's where the whole problem begins. The Samaritans also have the Pentateuch. In fact, the Samaritan Pentateuch, of which there is a copy today in Nablus, is almost identical as the Pentateuch of the Jews. It means that the Samaritan was as aware of the ritual, impurities that he would contract as much as the priest and the Levite. And therefore, the question is, well, the Samaritan too would be impure if he touched a man who was bloody. What makes the Samaritan react when the priest and the Levite would not? That's a whole big question. After all, they read the same Pentateuch. Same Pentateuch. In fact, the only difference major difference, if there is a difference at all, between the Samaritan Pentateuch and the Jewish Pentateuch is where the temple should be. Remember in John chapter 4, our fathers worship on this mountain. You say we should worship in Jerusalem. That's the only difference. Apart from that, everything is the same. For which reason, the only reason which would have, justified, if you like, the priest and the Levite for not reacting has been shot down. They have no case. Should have had compassion. The Samaritan did, reacted towards their fellow man. Now, this evening I thought, we've been punching very hard over the past 2 days or so. I thought, but let's take some lighter matter to our reflection. And so, tonight we're looking at, in the place where Adonai chooses, Deuteronomy chapter 16 verse 2, shifting trends in pastoral responses for effective evangelization. Now, this of course is also in line with our main theme, 125 years of mission. We should be interested in talking about some aspects of mission. Now, why have I chosen to begin with this rather strange passage in the place where Adonai chooses? And mind you, I keep saying Adonai and not Yahweh, Adonai, because there's a document that was issued, I think in 2000 or 2001, the Jewish people and their scriptures, and that was issued by the Pontifical Biblical Commission. And in that document, it says, as Catholics should be mindful of not pronouncing the divine name, the Tetragrammaton. We should, you see that in the Jerusalem Bible, you have Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. And this document of the church says, don't say Yahweh. When you see the Tetragrammaton, say Adonai. Respect for the Jews who never mention the divine name. Anyway, let's just place that behind our minds as we go on. That's why I keep saying Adonai. But in any case, in the place where Adonai chooses. Now, when we read the passages that have to do with the Passover in the scriptures, there are two main passages that we might want to refer to. The first one is in Exodus chapter 12. In fact, yesterday or this morning we touched on it briefly. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of the month they shall take every man a lamb according to their father's houses. A lamb for a household. Understanding is that the Passover, most probably in its original setting, was a family meal. In fact, that's the reason why it will go on to say, look, if your household is too small to consume a lamb, then you should join the other household. So it's really a meal in a family setting. A meal in a family setting. And you can see that it speaks about a lamb. Every man shall take a lamb according to the father's house. So it's a small animal. Now, by the time you get to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 2, it says, and you shall offer the Passover sacrifice to the Lord your God from the flock or the herd. Now, there's a difference between the flock and the herd. Flock refers to small animals, like goats, sheep, and so on. Herd, we're talking about cows, oxen, so on and so forth. Can you imagine? Which family will be able to eat a cow in one night? Almost impossible. Then it goes on to say, okay, from the flock or the herd, at the place which the Lord will choose to make his name dwell there. And what is happening is that if in the book of Exodus the Passover was celebrated in a family setting, by the time we're in the book of Deuteronomy, this is no longer a family meal. This is now a pilgrimage feast. The action is happening where the name of the Lord dwells, in Jerusalem. And of course, celebrating in a village, in a house, is different from celebrating in a city. In a city, you can kill a cow. You'll be able to finish it. In the family, you can only handle a sheep. And even that one, your family may be too small. You may have to join the next household. You can see there's some kind of adaptation in the way the liturgy of the Passover is celebrated based on urbanization. Based on the fact that the pastoral situation is changing. And if Brasiac came to the west coast of Africa with his intention of going into villages and bushes to evangelize people who were non-literate and so on and so forth, pastoral situation is changing. The mission is the same, but the expression of the mission cannot be the same. We're seeing that even in the Old Testament, the Pentateuch, the possibility of adaptation is already present. You don't celebrate the Passover in the village in the same way that you celebrate it in the city. Different. In 2015, must have been around June 2015. I was still in Rome at the time. when Archbishop sent me an email and said that there was a conference going to take place in Rome, the Catholic Biblical Federation, and that he would like me to attend on behalf of the Archdiocese, since I was already in Rome. It was held at Nemi. So for about a week or so, I was able to attend this conference, the Catholic Biblical Federation. And one of the speakers, in fact, the moderator of the whole conference, was this man, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. He was the Cardinal Archbishop of Manila, Philippines. And Cardinal Tagle, in one of his deliveries, said something that I've been thinking about ever since. He said, these days, the new frontiers of evangelization are no longer some God-forsaken village somewhere in some corner. The new frontiers of evangelization are in our cities. And I began to think, we come from a city diocese, or archdiocese for that matter. There might still be a few villages sprinkled about in our diocese, but within the next 5-10 years, the whole of Accra, in fact, if not already, is one big city. On our western boundary, we've hit Kaswa. On our northern boundary, we've hit Nsawam. On our eastern boundary, we are gradually moving towards Adan. And we're just one big city. The issue of going to some faraway village is gradually dying. And our way of doing mission increasingly has to become city-centered. But that comes with its own challenges. It demands that we begin to rethink, re-strategize, reimagine what we should be doing. This is around 2005, 2006, 2007, I can't remember. Still in the cathedral, I decided to do one summer program for the youth, in which they would come early in the morning, have adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, and then we would divide them into groups to go visit the sick. So I would go with one group with communion to the sick, and the others would just go in different directions to visit some of the sick around at Abraka, Asylum Down, and so on and so forth. And there was a good group of young people who would come, 20, 25, 30 of them would come and would gather after Mass, and we would split into 4 groups and go visit the sick. We used to have adoration very early, 5:30 in the morning. So they would come, and then after we would go. And so I noticed one of the youth who would come dressed in rather tight, shorts or pants. So I called this young lady aside and I said to her, we're going to visit elderly people, going to bring communion to them, and so on. And some of the elderly people are quite sensitive to the way that you dress. So why don't you just put on a long skirt, something like that, which is more decent, so that we can go together. And she says to me, Father, well, thank you very much. It's because of where I stay. So I'm saying, okay, So, where do you stay? I said, oh, Father, I stay somewhere downtown, around Novotel area, New Movenpick, that area. I said, okay, I would like to come and see where you stay. So, Father, well, you can come to where I stay, but you can only come after 9 p.m. Okay. This is becoming a bit more interesting now. I said, okay, if I have to come after 9 p.m., I'll come. So on that fateful day, I took my armored car, which I'm sure many of you remember. Sorry, that fateful day, 9 p.m., I jumped into my armored car and I rolled down from Cathedral, TUC, Novotel, and sure enough, I find this my youth. Where is she? She's sleeping on a veranda out in the open opposite the new octagon. And at that point, she's actually a student attending the Institute of Languages. She's lying on the veranda with her aunt and wakes up from there to go to attend school at the Institute of Languages. And I say to myself, oh my God, I judged too soon. It was clear to me immediately why she should wear tight shorts when coming for Mass at 5:30 a.m. But that event opened my eyes to what happens when I am asleep in the cathedral and it's raining at 10 p.m. Mind you, every time that you are in your room at 10 p.m. sleeping, there are people who have to stand erect all night because it's raining. I remember there were times those days in the cathedral, anytime it rained on a Saturday night, the number of people who came for Mass on Sunday morning was halved. Because all that area, Asylum down, Adabraka, all that area will be flooded. And you see, there's a way in which we should be careful that we see and yet we don't see. Or that we know and yet we don't know. That in the midst of our pastoral activity, there is a lot of misery going on around. And that we cannot claim this ignorance forever. These are two faces of our diocese. And that we are pastors of the one, but also of the other. Of the Accra malls and the West Hills malls, but also of the Agbogbloshis and the Sodom and Gomorrahs. We are pastors of both sides. And that we cannot continue as though these realities did not exist. We must have pastoral responses somehow or other. Now, I want to say frankly that I don't have the answers. But even if you don't have the answers, have questions. so that at least we can begin to think. These images are real. We drive through them every day, top speed. This is Accra. It's our diocese. Let's go back to the scripture. We all know the story of Lazarus and the rich man, one that we've preached about several times. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and who feasted sumptuously every day. At his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, full of sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. The question between Lazarus and the rich man sounds like, a rich man, the typical rich man, poor man affair. Unless we begin to look at the text more closely. Now, the characterization of Lazarus, we have to pay attention to. There's a poor man, Lazarus, full of sores. We were just talking a moment ago about sores, open sores. And the fact that for a Jew, an open sore makes you unclean fundamentally. So the rich man, he's not inviting Lazarus in. It's not just a matter that, he doesn't want to give him some. The man is unclean, ritually. He's unclean. He can't come close to him. And then Luke throws in another detail and says that, moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And we know from the book of Exodus, this must be chapter 23, the last verse of 23, I think it's 23:31, that things that are unclean are given to the dogs. Dogs eat unclean things. In fact, if you remember the story of Jezebel, 1 Kings chapter 21:22, and Jezebel died, dogs licked her blood. Unclean. Jezebel, The issue is that he's not talking about dogs coming to lick the sores for nothing. The man is unclean. Even dogs know that that's their food. Man is unclean. Now, what about the rich man? A rich man clothed in purple and fine linen. A very innocent statement. He's a rich man. We actually know that purple is a very something of antiquity that is so expensive. It smacks of royalty. So royals wear it. And when Luke is telling you stories, interrogate him more than once. Now, if you go into the book of Exodus, chapter 39, and read about the clothes that the priests, the sons of Aaron, are supposed to wear. Blue and purple, phosphora. You read from the Septuagint. Phosphora, blue and purple. Oh, we could say, well, that's a coincidence. I mean, it's something royal. Until I looked into those verses and saw the Greek for the word fine linen, as you can see highlighted here in the text, byssos. It is the same material from which the high priest's vestments are made. Same word. Exodus 39:2. Bishops, the Septuagint, the same word. Who is this rich man? He's a priest. And by the way, this bishops thing, I was reading later on about it. Bishops is a kind of fabric that is acquired from a special type of oyster that lives at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. To be able to get it, you have to have divers who dive to the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, get this oyster out, and then they extract it, and then they weave it into some kind of cloth. Now, currently, there's only one person alive who is known to know the technology of weaving bishops. It looks like nylon, but it has a certain gold look. So in actual fact, if somebody were wearing bishops, it would be as if the person were clad in gold. Expensive material. In Exodus chapter 39, that is what the sons of Aaron are to wear, together with phosphorus. Now, so this is the rich man feeding in his house. And then, it will say, and Lazarus died, and he was taken, the angels, took him to heaven. And rich man also died and was buried. And when you read that part, that Lazarus died and the angels carried him to heaven, your heart is so warmed by the feeling that, oh, the angels, took this poor man finally to heaven to go and enjoy. The reality is that when Lazarus died, no human being wanted to touch his corpse. It had to take angels to come and carry the body because no human being would touch it. A man is ritually unclean. The rich man died, he was buried. And that is why the twist in the story is so interesting. It's when the rich man from hell is now telling Father Abraham, tell Lazarus to dip his finger into water and come and put it into my mouth. This same man with open sores, whom even in his death nobody will bury. Angels have to descend from heaven to come and pick his body. To put the same finger inside his mouth. The irony of the situation. That is really what Luke is talking about. The consciousness of this man, who most probably from his intention is to maintain his ritual purity at all costs. That is the reason why he cannot interact with Lazarus. Only priests have that consciousness of ritual purity. And then this is the disaster that follows. And we must therefore think again in our priestly ministries, even as we live in our rectories. We are not in any way separated from the realities that surround us. We might be reliving the story of Lazarus and the rich man. Nicely painted rectories, high walls with electric fencing, CCTV. Bobby says I should add. Which I'm not critiquing fundamentally. I'm only saying let's be careful not to fall into a certain paradigm. Let's be careful. Now, that is one aspect of our ministry when I talk about shifting, realities in the pastoral life. The fact that we need to be conscious of these things around us. 2 years ago, at the cathedral, I met a lady, and she said something to me. She said, "Father, we are Romani now yaria, ya pao." That Father, when you are Catholic and you are ill, it's very painful. And I thought that's another dimension of the ministry in the city that we have to be looking carefully at. The ministry to the sick. Now, I know that recently we are having a good number of us who are into healing and deliverance ministries and so on and so forth. Now, the attention for the sick is important. We have the benefit of Father Quay, who is teaching us, and we ought to be learning from him what it really means, the concern for those who are sick. I'm sure that we know that sickness represents one of the most challenging times of a person's faith journey. And one thing that our people lack is an accompaniment, a spiritual accompaniment when they are going through times of illness. We know the consequences of it. Very often they find themselves going elsewhere. One Knights of St. John that I used to know in a parish I worked, active person, hyperactive person. I got back and I met this lady at the function. I said, "Oh, a long time we haven't met." I said, "Oh, Father, I left the church." I was like, this is somebody, the kind of people you see, every Sunday, every weekday, constantly in church. I was like, how is this? No, I fell sick and all my children go to Lighthouse, and the way the pastors followed me, constantly praying with me and so on and so forth. By the time I got well, honestly, I was heartbroken. The truth is that with the amount of work we have on our hands, I don't know how we can actually follow people so closely through their moments of illness, so on and so forth. But what is our pastoral response? Mind you, we don't really have any grotto for the sick or anything. You know, we have our grottos where we go first Saturday. But no ministry really tailored. We don't have it. What are we going to do? The once a month healing and deliverance that we do, the crusade, will this cater for that? For people who are going to Kolebu on a weekly basis, on a daily basis for about 3 years, what is the pastoral plan for accompanying people like that? Now, I'm not giving solutions, I'm not helping the matter much, but at least I can ask questions. Right in the Pentateuch, you can see the ministry of healing belongs to Aaron. There's a way in which no matter what we do, we cannot run away from it. One of the most frustrating things that all of us face is when, after you celebrated the Mass for 2.5, 3 hours, you come out of the Mass and you have a line of about 10 people, each one, Father, my stomach, Father, my leg, Father, my nose, Father. Your first reaction is to say, look, yeah. Didn't you, the whole Mass, don't you know that was a key? And yet, it means there's a gap, there's a lacuna. It means there's something that we need to pay attention to. That's why those words come back to mind, keep ringing. I haven't forgotten after 2 years. Father, we are rooming now. We are here. AAPA. Now, what could be our pastoral response? Back in Italy, in the north, in Milan, where I used to go do some galamsey at Easter and at Christmas. Master, if you don't do galamsey there, you will not survive. I remember that they had a concept called the Casa Familia. A Casa Familia. It was in this way that in a locality, in the parish setting, they had a house. And that house was run by lay volunteers, mainly a retired doctor, or nurses and so on and so forth. It wasn't a hospital. But if somebody, for instance, went to the hospital and was discharged, you know that the person is discharged and comes back home, but you're not immediately okay. If you've gone for an operation, you come back home, but you're not yet well. And the parents or usually the children, are working. This is the kind of situation that we have. The children are working. and the parent is not well and has come to stay with them, has fallen ill, how are they going to combine work with taking care of that parent who is sick? I'm sure that it's an issue that is already in your parishes that you are aware of. Very recently, I had a case around here in which a young couple, a woman's mother is taken ill, and the illness is quite grave. That I went there to pray for the person, and I saw the situation. Practically, I had to rush this old lady to the hospital, called Ebu, and so on and so forth. And this woman practically has to take care of her mother in the home, whose illness is quite contagious, and she has about 2-3 children, very young in the home. Excuse me to say, sometimes the mother can just ease herself like that, and the marriage is an attention. It can snap any day. Now, the concept of the casa familia would be that when this woman was discharged from the hospital, she would be brought to the casa familia. And so you had at least a week or 2 weeks where volunteers, people who have retired, pensioners and so on in the community, would take time off and come and do turns of duty to take care of the sick in that casa familia for an hour, for 2 hours during the day, and go back home. And so there is a duty chain, as it were. And the priest was involved. So every Wednesday, the priest went to Casa Familia to say Mass for the sick. And in fact, they had a little van fitted with, some structures in there for the sick, that would go around the community and bring all the sick from their homes to Casa Familia for Mass on Wednesday. So every Wednesday, the priest would hear the confessions of the sick. He would, pray for them, say Mass for them, give them communion, and the volunteers would take all of them back to their homes. I kept thinking about it. I said, I don't know how feasible this will be in my diocese, but at least some people have sought out a solution to the problem that they face. What is possible, what is not possible within our circumstances. We may not be able to adopt this hook, line, and sinker. What can we do? A couple of months back, or maybe last year or so, I was invited by, I think it was the Seminary, to one of their crusades. I prefer to do retreats these days than crusades, but I obliged to go. And one of the texts that I reflected on the faithful is this particular one, Luke chapter 13, 11 to 12. This passage is about this woman who had an infirmity for 18 years. And Jesus saw her in the synagogue and said, "Woman," on the Sabbath, he said, "Woman, you are freed of your infirmity." And then the scribes and Pharisees begin to grumble. Why couldn't this woman wait, to come another day to be released of her infirmity? Why do you heal this woman? And then Jesus says, "For which of you, if he had an ox and the ox fell into a hole, would he not pull him out?" And so on and so forth. An interesting thing about those 18 years what I just want to explain. I know 18 is 6 times 3, or if you like, 6 plus 6 plus 6. 6, 6, 6. Already is the meaning. And the situation of this woman is like a woman without a Sabbath. You know, the Sabbath is the day for rest. But you read from the book of Deuteronomy, it is also the Sabbath, the day in which the Lord released Israel from their slavery. In fact, it says that the reason why you keep the Sabbath is because the Lord released you from slavery. That's why you keep the Sabbath. And this woman has been a slave for 18 years. It's as if every time she gets to 6 and is about to get her Sabbath, it has to begin all over again. 6, she gets to 12, she's going to a Sabbath, she has to begin again. A Sabbathless woman. A woman with no rest from her illness. And many of the people that we are pastoring in our flock, unfortunately, are like this woman. One problem after another. Poverty, illness, and the response from us as church is not immediately forthcoming. And Jesus says, ought not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, from whom Satan bound for 18 years, be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day? Now, what I'm suggesting today is that our pastoral strategy has to look beyond the parish walls. We have to have an eye for people who are engaged, with whom we engage all around us. I'm asking myself, of all the people on the streets of Accra we drive past every day, what is our pastoral intervention? If there were even one Sunday in the Archdiocese of Accra in which every parish would feed street children, would that be a possible intervention? If every parish had a policy that in your parish school you had to admit and give scholarship to a number of children on the street, would we be doing something about it? In my opinion, we should just leave it here for tonight. Pray that the Lord inspires us on how to react and to engage the realities that we see around us. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, as now and ever shall be, world without end.